Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I want to talk about another game I am optimistically excited for, the newest Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment. Now I know what you may be wondering, why am I only optimistically excited for this game? Because I love Warriors games. Weirdly enough, last year I realized I absolutely love this franchise. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is one of my favorite games I've ever played, and the new Hyrule Warriors should be right up my alley. But however, the last Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity had a couple things fall flat for me, and I'm really hoping that Age of Imprisonment does not fall into those same pitfalls. The biggest one for me personally is going to be the story. Now, I think me and a lot of people who were really excited for this game thought it was going to 100% follow the story of Breath of the Wild, where, I guess spoiler alert if you haven't played Breath of the Wild yet, all the champions in Link die during the Age of Calamity, and they lose. There's a reason why nothing good happens for 100 years between that and Breath of the Wild. They all die and they all lose, and Zelda has to trap Ganon or whatever until Link can resurrect. And I was really excited to see that in this game, because one, I think it could have been a really interesting thing to see, you play through and you lose. There's a fine line between losing and feeling like, oh, this game's wanting me to lose. So I don't really know how they would have done that. But I think it could have been really interesting to play through the game as all the champions, and then lose their final battles, and then have Link die in a really big horde section, kind of like the end of Crisis Core, and have the final actual battle of the campaign be Zelda versus Ganon, or however you want to have Ganon, because they did kind of change up Ganon a little bit in this game. But have that be the final battle, and when you win, Zelda seals them up, and then that directly leads into the story of Breath of the Wild. And I think that would have been really great. It would have given fans everything they kind of wanted to see and what we thought we were getting with this game. But they had to have a little time travel shenanigans with this little egg. And it brought back all the new age champions like Sidon and Riju, and have them help the past champions to defeat their blights or whatever. It really took the wind out of my sails for this game. I just really did not care for the story as much as I did going into it. And again, I don't think Age of Calamity in itself is a bad game. I really loved the gameplay, especially playing as Urbosa and Mipha. I loved playing as them, but the story just wasn't there for me. It's a big reason why I'm worried for Age of Imprisonment, because they could possibly do the same thing. Now, I haven't actually beaten Tears of the Kingdom, so I don't actually know how it's really supposed to go. So I don't really know exactly what I want to see to where I can tell you, oh, I want to see the champions lose or whatever. But I don't want time travel shenanigans where we have Sidon come in and save whoever that sage is, I don't know. But I understood why they kind of did this in Age of Calamity. I wonder if their reason was, we need a reason for these characters to be here so they can be playable, because in Warriors games they usually have a pretty big roster of characters for you to choose from. And I love this in Definitive Edition. There are so many characters from classic Zelda games they can play as, and it's really cool. And it makes sense that they'd want that with their characters from Breath of the Wild, since this only really is about that game. But I don't think that they really need to add them into the story to make them playable. They could have gone one of two ways. One, you could just add them in as playable characters after the main story, for extra missions or whatever. Or two, and I think the way that they should have gone, is that you have the main story end like it did in Breath of the Wild, where everyone loses, but then you add an extra side story that's almost like a what if, where you have the egg activate or whatever and it time travels them in. So you could still have this alternate ending where they all live and they all win, but it doesn't interfere with the main story. And players still get that main story that they were probably hoping for. And I think that would have been a perfect way to do it. But that's how I would have done it, and if they're gonna do something similar for Age of Imprisonment, I hope that they do an extra what if story, because I think that's fine if they show the original story. And now I will say, Nintendo keeps stating that this game is canon, but for me that doesn't necessarily mean all my fears are alleviated. Because I feel like they said a similar thing with Age of Calamity, where they're like, you get to see the story before Breath of the Wild. Though I guess they didn't use the word canon, so it doesn't really matter. So in that front, it's not comparable, I guess. But that just gives me all the more reason that if Link shows up in the main story, I will not like this game. But yeah, apparently it is canon, so at least that's something good to look forward to. But something I'm also taking with a grain of salt. And I've seen a lot of people online talk about, oh, I wanted to play as these characters, so of course it has to be non-canon or whatever. And I don't think that's true. Having a canon story does not mean you can't play as these other characters. I think Age of Calamity would have you believe that, because for some reason you can't play as the main wizard bad guy or whatever. I think that's super lame, and they should have had him be playable after the main story, or whatever, or give him a mission if you need to have him be playable in the story for you to play as him. I don't think these characters not being involved in the main story means that they can't be playable, and for a big reason, I think Link is still going to be playable in Age of Imprisonment, just not in the main story. But then it begs the question of my second issue in this game. But in the last trailer, we did get like a little sneak peek at I'm assuming, playable character, where it's like a stone golem who has Fi's theme. And I think this can go one of two ways. One, I think this is going to be pretty much the Link stand-in, gameplay-wise at the very least, where it's going to play like Link. But we don't know who's like, I guess, controlling the golem, you know? In my opinion, I think it should be like Fi or something similar to that. Because one, I think she should come back into the games. I really like her. I think this would be a perfect game to reintroduce her. But I do not want it to be Link from the future controlling this thing. Like if it's a spirit or whatever, I don't want to. I think you can have a hero similar to Link to fulfill the same like role in the story. But yeah, playable characters. I am pretty sure all these sages keep their stone masks on. So like the Gerudo woman was a new reveal for this latest trailer, so we don't really know who she is, what she's about, or anything like that. And I think that's fine for this game to like expand upon that. It's gonna obviously have to. But it does make me a little worried about time travel shenanigans when I don't know any of these characters. Am I gonna enjoy their characterization or whatever? Cause Breath of the Wild Age of Calamity, we kinda knew who our favorite characters were going into it. We knew we were gonna like Urbosa, Mipha, Rivali. These other guys, other than Rauru, I don't really know any of these newer characters. So that's also a big thing for me where I may just not enjoy playing as them other than Zelda. And I'm sure I'm gonna like Zelda, even though I didn't love her moveset in Age of Calamity. I'm also sure that they'll do DLC for this game like they've done with previous Warriors games. They haven't done it with everything. Three Hopes didn't get any DLC, but Fire Emblem Warriors did. I guess it's not like preset that we're gonna get DLC, but I'm sure we are. Age of Calamity got DLC with a couple more characters, and that's all fine. And I think DLC is fine for the most part. I do want them to add something meaningful, but not like meaningful in the way of the story isn't complete unless you buy this DLC, you know? I also hope they don't lock a Link behind DLC. That would also be a kind of an issue for me. But yeah, when this game was revealed, I wasn't as excited for this game as I think I should have been, just because of how much I love the original Hyrule Warriors. But Age of Calamity did leave kind of a sour taste in my mouth, where I was thinking another Zelda Warriors game, but I had completely forgotten about Three Hopes. I still need to play through that whole game, and we have had like Persona 5 Strikers, which isn't really a Musou game like these games are, but I was like, oh, another Zelda Warriors. I really should have been excited for this game, but with these things I've talked about, it's kind of stopped me from fully embracing these like prequel Warriors games. Because I also really wish it would go back to that original Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors kind of crossover mindset where it's bringing a lot of characters from a lot of different games and putting them in a story that doesn't really matter for anything. Because I'm sure that this game is going to be limited to just Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom characters. I'm not going to be able to play as Ravio or Yuga or Vati, a lot of characters I'd love to play as in a Warriors game again. Koei Tecmo's really been doing a lot of these prequel ones. A lot of these that they are doing for other companies really are just like extending the story. Now I love Persona 5 Strikers, but how cool would it be for Persona Warriors where you could play as Makoto, Yu, Yosuke, Naoto, and Joker all in the same game? Like, it'd be fun. It's really why I hope after this game they go back to that mindset of creating games for Nintendo, because I would love a Xenoblade Warriors that incorporates all these characters. Now, I guess you could have a canon story that incorporates all these characters with how the main story trilogy has gone, but that would weaken the story of the trilogy in my opinion, and I don't think we need that. But I would love a Xenoblade Warriors that's more like a crossover where it doesn't really matter how the story goes. We get to see these characters interact in their prime and just mow down enemies in a Musou game. It'd be so fun. You could play as Metalface. You could do all this stuff. I just want a Xenoblade Warriors that is much like the old Warriors games. I'm sure Age of Imprisonment's gameplay will be great. I'm sure I'll be in love with it, like I am with Age of Calamity's gameplay. But my final thing I wanted to note was that in the last Direct, I was really expecting and hoping for a release date for this game. And beyond winter, we haven't heard anything. Now, Nintendo can be a little weird with like release dates. I'm sure that they kind of put this up maybe a little bit earlier than they would have because they want to have stuff like to look forward to with the Switch 2. But I was really expecting a release date because we're nearing that point where I'm like, if it doesn't come out soon, I think it's going to come out next year. And I guess February is still that like winter time frame, you know? But I'd like it this year because I just want a new Warriors game, even though I still have to play through Three Hopes. New release date for me is just a little worrying, but I'm sure it'll be great. Koei Tecmo has been doing a great job. Dynasty Warriors Origins was great. They're doing a major DLC for that in the future, which is great. And they're even remastering an old title. So there is a lot to look forward to with Warriors, and I just hope Age of Imprisonment is everything I want and more, but we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know what you think about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and goodbye.